So I now invite the panellists to come and join me, and we can take some, I'll give some questions. So I want to say thank you so much to Guillaume and Arantxa for coming this morning. This is the part where we share best practice. So we can talk to you and find out from actual real life experiences how you manage your intercultural competence in your different companies. First of all, I would like to ask Arantxa, what have you done in Cellnex to look at intercultural competence in your leadership?
Well, first of all, hello everyone, good morning, thank you for having invited me. Well, we have done and we are doing a lot of different things. For us, EDI is part of our NDA because we have grown so much in the last few years. We were in one country and now, after 7 years, we are in 12 and we are continue growing organically and also thanks to M&A. So we are super aware about the transformation and evolution that it requires from our company, and we create a lot of campaigns of awareness. We celebrate EDI days. We celebrate super intensively the EDI week when we can do a lot of different events, but they are not just events where we explain how important it is, that of course. They are events where we explain why it is so important for us, how this is connected to our business, and how this is supporting us in being more sustainable in our business. So it's this is why I said that it is in our NDA and it is core to us. Now we are celebrating the intercultural month, the diversity one. We make a lot of different trainings. We try to be very pragmatic. For example, now you showed regarding the feedback. This month, part of our celebration will be to support, thanks to BBI, to support our leaders in how to provide feedback in an effective manner for their intercultural teams. We are also we have also created a journey regarding inclusive leadership that it involves 100% of the company, of people of the company. It is a long journey. We are aware that this is one of the first steps, but solid one, where we invite these 3,000 people that we are today at Cellnex to understand why this is so important and why this is not just a cool thing to have, but a must thing to have to be sustainable and to be successful in our business. Then for the leaders, we provide more trainings, workshops, and tips to be more inclusive, because you can be more diverse. Today we are more diverse, but if you don't extract the best for that diversity, nothing happens. It's about, okay, having diversity, but once you have that diversity, how you embrace that and how you create value from that uniqueness that each of us provide. And then the top management. We provide to them assessment tools for them to understand how they are in terms of inclusive leaders, coaching, and more training. So, and I don't want to forget one thing, that it is very significant for us as we are growing in so many countries. We used to make workshops where we invite the people. For example, if we are growing in Poland, we are making an acquisition, we invite people from Poland, we invite people from the headquarters, and we make workshop regarding this intercultural competence, because first of all it's about understanding the differences, being aware about those differences, and don't underestimate those thinking that we all think the same. No, it's not that. So these are some of the things that we are doing.
Amazing, and a very multi-layered strategy to look at intercultural competence across the company. And we know from our experience that it's so welcomed by the teams. the teams themselves are very grateful to have their eyes opened to things that maybe they didn't understand before, they didn't understand the reference points before, and then you do these activities and you include everybody. They feel included, they feel more engaged. The plus points are many indeed.
One of the things that correlates the most with successful initiatives regarding EDI is the accountability. We are super aware of that. So although I have that under my department, it's not about my department, it's about the whole company, it's something transversal more important than us. And we have champions that support us in making this also active, a champion of cultural diversity, people that are interested in those topics that support us in making this live, and they are across countries, across roles and layers. So.
Excellent. So Guillaume, come to you. Maybe you could share some of your experiences, because tell us the journey of Ocado and how you've grown and what challenges and opportunities that presents.
Does it work? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I was actually agreeing with some of the slides you were doing, because I think it's, diversity fosters innovation, right? So that's the basics. And, our company is all about the innovation that we do. And I think, if I do a journey, let's say, of Ocado technology, and I'll do it in a different way, right? Let's say that Ocado technology was created here in Barcelona. We could build our culture, right? We could build our processes, communications, and things like that. The type of benefits we do, the type of socials, how leaders talk with the employees based on a, let's say, Spanish cultural approach. Now, out of a sudden, the reality is that in our office in Spain, 50% of our employees are international, and we have 32 nationalities. So no, actually the balance is the other way around. So how we build it in this approach. This is not even if we zoom out, actually Ocado Technology is a UK company. We are in 7 countries with 11 offices, 2,400 employees, and I've lost count of the nationalities anymore. I think maybe 50, 60. So you end up on a scenario where you have to do actions that is meaningful to 2,400 employees. It will be received different in each country. It will be received different by each community within the country. So now that changed completely the way you're going to communicate, right? I remember when we were talking, I was explaining an example about how you write a policy, right? If you write a policy, probably that might come from the headquarters because it's a general policy. It will come in English, obviously, so we have a lot of nationalities. And we understood that even some of our employees just go to Google Translate and they put the policy there and see how that word translates to another language. This is just to give you an example of the way you are explaining things. You were getting a really good example about precise answers and UK company based, where sometimes the answer is a little bit it's not a yes or no answer. It's more about. And then some employees in Poland were saying, actually, it's a yes or no what we have to do, right? So depending of how you're going to build this community, it changed completely. And it's really important that the leaders are aware of that. You give trainings, good examples about how to have tough conversations. Not the same when you have a multicultural team, how to explain policies, how to socials, or even on benefits. And we sometimes rely too much on, let's socials in our office in Barcelona. Let's have fun all together and beers. We have people from Asia that feels a little bit uncomfortable of doing some of these things. We were doing when we started, onboarding. Let's do an introduction, and everyone that joins a company speaks to everyone at the office. Actually, and then we realized that some people felt really uncomfortable of being in front of people and saying, it's my first day, hello everyone, and so on. So trying to make sure your leaders are aware of all of these details, it's really important, because then, the employee will feel more welcome and will feel more part of a team. And the employee will feel that, you're taking care of them. So it's not just you're another one, and then this is the way we do things here. Actually, the McKinsey definition, I think it's how the things are done in a company. It's really important that everyone is aware of, and I think for us it's key to understand every time that we onboard someone that it's been welcome and we understand their backgrounds.
Yeah, and you make a really good point about the fact that sometimes we think all we need to do is have a get together. Oh, let's all get together, But different cultures have different attitudes towards get-togethers. We had a classic example in the UK. I was working in a company and we decided to organise a paintball exercise. And, you know, half of the company thought fantastic. The other half were filled with terror. They did not, you know, they didn't want to actively participate. This was something that we had not thought about. And so it's these layers of understanding and inclusion that we need.
It happens on every small action at your company, even when you organize meetings in a team, right? The chit chat at the beginning, right? So when you start a meeting sometimes, especially these days remote that all the meetings are transactional, you join a meeting and the first 5 minutes, you know, some people like to, you know, how's the weather or how's been the week, or I have to say that UK people always ask about the weather. Like, you know, how's the weather down
no
there?
surprise, no
like
surprise
that.
there.
It's like, okay, and you know, that's the first 5 minutes. You can easily see how the people interact between them and who is not interacting at all, because you might ask someone, you know, how was your weekend? You had fun with your family and friends? Maybe that's uncomfortable for them. They're not, you know, it's not common for them to share what they're doing in their personal lives. So I think understanding all of these, you know, small actions and giving tools to managers is the most important thing.
Yeah, because it's right at the beginning, it's before that process happens, it's before that interaction happens that we need to be conscious and decide how that's going to be bridged, those gaps are going to be bridged. Because it's very true, and we see it all the time. Some, you know, nationalities are just not comfortable with sharing personal information, and it's a shock to them when other cultures do this so easily. So understanding these rules of the game, we come back to the rules of the game, is vital for success. So I'd really like to also ask about the tools, the specific tools that you use in your organisation. I know, Arantxa, you recently introduced the IDI, which is Intercultural Development Inventory Assessment Tool. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
I loved when I discovered that because what you don't track, it doesn't exist. I mean, so for us, you need to track, you need to see the progress. And for other axes of diversity, we could measure the progress easily. But for cultural, we had that like not so easy. We made actions, but we didn't have a tool to track. So we discovered the IDI, and I think it's fantastic because it measures at individual and also at group level in which phase you are and in which phase you consider you are, which there might be a gap. And then you can create actions from where you are, and you can be more actionable and more meaningful in the actions that you are making, and also in the way you are investing. So we have started to use that this year. In the Diversity Week, one of the actions that we made, we launched this in a voluntary manner. Some people did that. And now, in this month, for those that decided to do that, we will provide them the results. We will make a workshop to debrief the results. And for me, managing that, now it's okay. At group level, we are here. The idea is to make a measurement every year to see if the actions that we are making are having an impact, because at the end it's not about making actions, it's about making an impact. So we are super excited with that.
Amazing. And as you say, you know, this Peter Drucker quote, what gets measured gets done. You know, so if we don't measure it, how do we know where people are? Also, it's an amazing benefit for the employees, because I think it was McKinsey as well that said, you know, by 2030, how do you measure a leader? It's going to be by their intercultural competence. So if you give these people skills, you're also giving them value in their future. So, you know, this is very, very important.
Sorry?
Can you explain a bit more this tool?
Yeah, it's a tool where you make an assessment. It's a simple assessment, I mean, about how do you perceive yourself in certain scenarios. And then you receive a result in this workshop we will debrief the results and how to interpret that, that feedback. And then you can see where are you in terms of intercultural development, because at the beginning it's like denial, it doesn't exist, then polarization, us, them, us, then minimization of the difference, acceptance, and for me the end is like welcoming the uniqueness of each one and celebrating that and bring that value, no? And then it is with this assessment you can see in which stage you are and also in which stage you think you are. So it's like your perception about yourself and then the reality about where you are in terms of intercultural assessment. You can do that at individual level, which I find is also very interesting because many times we do general things. But when you can see yourself in a place and have a feedback about yourself, again, it's more actionable and it's more meaningful to you, and you, your approach is different, no? You are more involved personally. I think it's more relevant. And then at group level, we have the result, a consolidated result. We don't receive the individual ones, but we receive the consolidated results, and it's like, okay, now we are in minimization, although we consider that we are more advanced, and then how we can move on.
So it gives you the opportunity to really measure where you are and think about the actions that you need to follow up on for raising the intercultural competence. So it's it's scientifically proven, it's a really good measurement tool, and it's something that is absolutely actionable at individual and at group level. So it's something that we've been working with this year really, but it's very exciting, very exciting.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of studies about intercultural, but for me it has been the first time that I found a measurement and assessment, and it's like, oh yes, now we have also in the cultural access.
Because we've got lots of profiling tools which are different. So you can profile a national culture, you can profile people on, as we all know famously, whether they're yellow, blue, green or red. You can do all of those things, but actual measurement of intercultural competence is very specific, and it's something to build the layers. Great, and a question to you, Guillaume. You are a technology company, and so you've put in place, I understand, lots of tools that people can use. Tell us about that.
I think it's important that especially these days, right? In Barcelona, for instance, we are close to 200 people. I like to say that we don't have one office, we have 200 offices because everyone is at home. In this scenario, no news is not good news. Like we used to say this, right? Because it's how can you give different touch points to your employees so they can give feedback and they can be heard. And I think that's really important, right? It's not just that direct conversation with the manager or the direct conversation with the people partner, is how can you give different touch points. We have, at Ocado, we have well-being champions, we have listening champions, and we have councils. We have a lot of, let's say, areas where you can get the touch point, but we also have tools like, for instance, Picon, where we can get feedback from our employees and they are able to, through the set of questions, get their opinion out in an anonymous way if they want, or with their name. It's a different type of setup, so we try to measure that as well, what's happening, because if you don't know what's happening, that's when the issue is, right? You can sit at home and think that everything goes well, but how do you know if a team is performing well or not? In this case, in terms of diversity, cultural diversity, right? I think this is important. You mentioned inside discovery, right, as well, or understanding the individual and all these things. This is also part of the process. It's not that cultural related, let's say. It's more about an individual, because the teams, you could be blue, red, or yellow, or green. But I think giving tools that the people can provide feedback, like Picon, I think it's important. So that would be my suggestion. How can you ensure your teams have a way to send anonymous feedback if they want to?
Fantastic. Does anyone in the audience have questions before we move to the wrap-up of the session? Any? Oh, yes.
Hi. When we were talking about adjusting to people's, you talked about people not wanting to speak in public on the first day, etc. So, in a kind of a worst-case scenario, does that mean we all move to a very bland, personality-free type of interaction? I hope not. Or how do you balance it so you can retain personality, which comes from culture in many cases, while also keeping the respect part? Any answer?
I think, well, if I may, on my case, the corporate culture as well is important. So, for instance, when you hire, that's, I 100% recommend to do a values interview. So when you hire, you hire the type of employee that's going to work for you. It's not like everyone works for you. It's like you have a set of processes or a set of behaviorals within the company. The iceberg that we were showing before, right, where you have some things that are visible and some things that are not visible. So this is important to be understood when the candidate process, because you need to understand how this person is going to interact with the company. It's not like hiring everyone and it works for everyone. So I think that's the important part, because it's not just the cultural diversity. There's a lot of things around the culture, and obviously the enterprise or corporate culture, if you want to call it. So how your company behaves is also important, right? So that's where the balance comes. It's not like hiring everyone because everyone is going to work and their styles of communication works for us. It's okay, what collaboration means to you. If collaboration doesn't mean the same to you and me, don't hire that person, right? If trust is different, don't do that. So in our case, we do values assessment, and I would say it's as tough or as important than the technical one, because especially in the technology field, where we have this lack of talent everywhere, like, oh, someone is good in tech, let's hire that person, right? No matter what. No, I think it's important to also measure the other side, and that's where the balance comes in.
For me, in addition to that, I think that as it is equality, humility, active listening, there are certain values that are important across the company, and I think those type of values are very natural related to EDI and to be very inclusive. So regardless how you are, sometimes super extrovert, sometimes incredibly introvert, to do things in a way where everyone feels safe and secure and welcome in the way they are. And it is not more value if you are one or other, because each of us will provide different value. And also we are super aware of the talent scarcity. Now we will have a lot of retirements in Europe in the next few years, and we are in Europe. So we have a very open eyes to identify talent, no matter the talent is different to us. We think that it is beautiful and it brings a lot of value. And in fact, the way we are, I think it's incredibly interesting for us that we are managing these topics, because for the first time in 20 more years of experience, this is the first time that I report periodically how we are going in terms of EDI. Periodically, I mean like every month. It is embedded in the objectives of our top management for the short-term compensation, and also long-term. And in fact, this is the first time this year that thanks to the way we manage diversity and inclusion, we have obtained different conditions in terms of treasury for some projects, which is something that some years ago was unbelievable. It didn't exist. No one asked me those things. And in fact, it is not that they just discover something. Our current investors, 80%, analyze EDI as a criteria to see if they really want to continue investing in us. So,
and I think coming back to that point, it's really important to stress that you don't become another culture. I don't think anybody wants somebody to become another culture. It's the awareness and the safe space to be able to be yourself in any culture. I think that's the big difference. And we had another question.
Hi, Karen.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. One short question for you too. When do you have in front of you, when you speak to your team, let's say 30, 50 people, different countries, do you mention to them that you understand that maybe the message you are giving to them will be understood in a different way? Do you mention to them when you speak? Because I never heard nobody saying, well, I'm going to explain you something, but I understand that probably you feel in a different way that you. And I'm saying the same.
Well, first of all, when we start to work with someone internationally, we make those workshops where we bring these topics in a very conscious manner. The topic is already brought when we start working. So this facilitates us to be aware about those differences. Maybe then, when we interact later in an individual manner, personally, I don't do that, but I ask a lot of questions and I give a lot of space, and in order to check if we are understanding the same thing, or to rephrase, or because it's true that we understood different things.
I think if you have that question, I would be aware before I do the communication, just in case I need to change the communication. So if I'm doing something, especially, for instance, my role is effectively overviewing all the offices. So I actually have one person from each country, so more diversity than that. I'm trying to, if I'm thinking they are going to receive differently, I'm trying to change the communication before. Nevertheless, sometimes happens that you do something, because obviously 2,400 employees, you will never have a message written in Slack, because that's the tool we use to communicate that fits everyone, and everyone is going to read it on the same way. I think that's the post-conversation to happen, right? So on those scenarios, when we, for instance, do global policies, sometimes some leaders have shared this, talk to your manager, to your local manager, in case you don't have that. Rather than, the CEO of the company saying, I understand you might have heard this differently, sometimes we link to the local managers to, okay, you have any more questions, if something is not well understood, talk to your managers, and then it's when that's cascading down on the leadership. And then, the local managers that probably knows more the employee than me or than any of the top managers, they are the ones to have that closer conversation and say, do you have any concerns, or you might have understood this differently? Because that's the next step, right? Is, as a manager, especially if you're managing a small team in a big company, if you know how your employee is going to react to communication, be aware of that. If you know the communication before, you can prepare them. You can have a post conversation with them. Block 30 minutes after this communication, because you know that what's going to be shared is going to be tough for them. So the ones that are closer to the teams are the ones that have more actionable, let's say, sentence.
Yeah, very good point. I do the same, really, because we create a lot of global topics from the headquarters, corporate, global things to the world. No. I mean, I really try to avoid that. I support my country partners. I create, global things with them from the very beginning, and then I always try them to be the ones that are the front of the initiatives, because they know how to allocate. And for example, now it's like, okay, we want to improve in feedback, in this, and this. I bring support to them, consultant firm, but it's like, okay, globally speaking, we need this. The how, it is for you to decide. Maybe you want to implement that from top to down, or from the top. It's for you, because you know better how to allocate the things rather than me. You are there. So we really are very respectful in the how.
And in the leadership workshops that we run, this topic comes up every time, and it's about sort of like checking those rules. What are the rules of engagement? So making sure that you've understood what somebody else has said to you, and having the space to be able to go back and check on that. If I understand you correctly, you want this, or if I understand you correctly, we're delivering that, is always a useful way of going over and just making sure that between the cultures, because some cultures are very direct in their communication. Guillaume, you worked in the UK for 15 years, right? So, you understand that. Other cultures, you have to read between the lines. So, you know, understanding and double checking that understanding is fundamental to the communication.
And I think on that, you as well understand your own biases, right? Because sometimes I share that personally, I'm able to work on a Spanish type of company. I always ask this to myself, and it's weird because I'm actually, you know, from a town 80 kilometers away, but I've been always working on a UK environment, and it's like, okay, if I now work in a different type of culture, would I be able to do that? So understanding my own biases, because I'm so used to working in this type of environment, it's like, okay, now that I know what I'm telling my employees in this type of way, because it's, you know, I've been always doing this for 12 years, or 15 now. 15.
Great. Thank you very much, panelists.
Thank
Thank
you.
you to you.
We'll
Thank
wrap
you.
up now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll just say a few words to close, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just wrap up quickly. Thank you so much. So just to sort of wrap everything up, exactly as our panelists have just actually summarised for us. Can't hear? Doesn't work? You can hear me though, yeah? Everyone can hear me. I can shout. There we go, I'm back. As the panelists actually said in their last words, you know, describing the sort of situation and thinking about the situation without judgment, interpreting from different perspectives. You know, Guillem's now able to interpret from different perspectives because he's worked in one scenario for 15 years and has come back to his home city. And then evaluating how you can adapt your behaviour, but not changing who you are. I think this is the point that we got from the audience. We don't all want to become one culture, we want to celebrate our differences. And we invite you to join us at our Intercultural Academy, which takes place on Thursday, May the 19th from 9 to 12. We are, as mentioned, in the European Diversity Month, and we're doing lots of actions to support that. One of the actions is this one, leading effectively across cultures. And as you've all been so kind to join us today, we're very happy. If you want to join, you can have 2 for the price of 1. So we have an offer for you. So if you want to take advantage of it, go back to your companies, 2 for the price of 1. We're also running a free game session, which we'd love you to join on Tuesday, the 24th of May. Diversity, which is a lot of fun. I think we've had a diversity game here before, haven't we? It's a lot of fun, so please join online and take advantage of that. And please get in touch. We're doing lots of other actions during the month and continuously, so please join us after the event. Thank you so much. Let's go and continue with coffee. Thank you, Judith.